The strangest thing anyone had ever asked me to do happened between a basket of oranges and a display of fresh bread. 1 second, I was standing alone in a crowded farmer's market in Portland, Oregon, counting the few dollars left in my wallet. The next, a woman I had never met suddenly grabbed my arm, leaned close and whispered, "Please, just play along." There was something in her eyes that made me forget how strange the request sounded. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't mischief. It was desperation disguised as courage. And somehow, before that afternoon was over, the woman named Grace Bennett would change the direction of my life. If you believe kindness can arrive when we least expect it, and that hope, compassion, forgiveness, and second chances can change people, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You never know when a simple story might remind someone that life can still surprise them. My name is Caleb, and at 35 I had become very good at pretending everything was fine. I had once worked as a carpenter, had plans to open my own small workshop, and had believed I knew exactly where my life was going. Then, a business partnership collapsed, bills piled up, and the apartment I had called home for 6 years suddenly became something I could no longer afford. I wasn't homeless, but I was living in a tiny rented room, taking temporary jobs and measuring every purchase carefully. That morning, I had gone to the market because I needed vegetables for dinner, and because walking among ordinary people somehow made my problems feel less permanent. Grace appeared beside me near a fruit stand. She was carrying a canvas bag and wearing a pale green jacket. Before I could even turn fully toward her, she took my arm and smiled toward two people standing several yards away. A tall man named Jonathan and a blonde woman named Rebecca were watching us. Grace whispered that Jonathan was her former fiancé, and Rebecca was the woman he had chosen after their engagement ended. Grace didn't want Jonathan to think she had spent the past year falling apart. She wanted him to see that she had moved on. She asked me to pretend I was someone important in her life for just a few minutes. I should have walked away. Instead, I nodded. We wandered toward the bakery, and Grace laughed naturally, as if we'd known each other for years. Jonathan eventually approached us. Grace introduced me as Caleb, a close friend. I expected an awkward performance, perhaps a little embarrassment, and then goodbye. But when Jonathan asked Grace how she was doing, her smile weakened. She admitted that losing him had hurt, but what hurt more was losing herself while trying to keep a relationship alive. Then, she looked at me and said something unexpected. She said that sometimes the best thing life can do is force you to discover who you are without the person you thought you couldn't live without. Jonathan quietly apologized. Rebecca looked uncomfortable, and soon the two of them left. I expected Grace to thank me and disappear. Instead, she asked why I looked like I was carrying a heavier burden than she was. I tried to laugh it off, but she noticed the worn-out work gloves sticking from my jacket pocket. I told her about the workshop I had once dreamed of building. I told her I still had the plans, but no money and no idea how to begin again. Grace didn't give me money. She didn't make some unbelievable promise. She simply asked me to show her the plans. 2 days later, she brought them to a community business group where she volunteered. I learned that Grace had spent years helping small local businesses recover after difficult seasons. She introduced me to people who needed custom shelves, tables, and repairs. One small contract became another. Slowly, my hands became busy again. Months passed. I rented a modest garage and began rebuilding my workshop. Grace became a close friend, but neither of us tried to force our lives into something they weren't ready to become. We simply kept showing up for each other. Then, one rainy evening, I found Grace sitting outside my workshop, crying quietly. Her mother had become seriously ill, and Grace had been spending every day caring for her while working 2 jobs. She had helped everyone else for years. But suddenly, she was the one who needed someone. That night, I understood why she had grabbed my arm at the market. She hadn't just been searching for someone to impress an old fiancé. Somewhere beneath that little act of pretending, she had been searching for proof that life could still contain unexpected goodness. And somehow, she had given me the same proof. A year after we met, my workshop officially opened. On the wall above my workbench, I placed a small wooden sign I had made myself. It read, "Start again." Grace stood beside me as I turned the key for the first time. There were no cameras, no wealthy investors, and no miracle check waiting on the table. There was simply a small business, two imperfect people, and the quiet knowledge that neither of us had given up. If this story touched something inside your heart, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes people deserve another chance, and subscribe if you want more stories about unexpected kindness and the moments that change us. And before you go, I want you to leave a comment. Have you ever met someone unexpectedly who changed the direction of your life? Maybe they helped you when you were struggling, believed in you when you couldn't believe in yourself, or simply reminded you not to give up. Sometimes, we think the people who change our lives will arrive with grand speeches or perfect timing. But sometimes they appear beside a basket of oranges, grab our arm, and whisper 3 simple words. Play along. We may think we're helping them through a difficult moment, never realizing they are about to help us find our way back to ourselves. Caleb thought Grace needed a stranger to pretend everything was okay. In the end, she gave him something far more valuable, the courage to begin again.